Sorry for stealing your rich boyfriend. I'm already pregnant, you know. I received a sudden call from my best friend, who confessed with an air of confidence and ease. However, I wasn't surprised at all. After all, her doing something like this isn't new. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel defeated when she boldly revealed her betrayal. Even though she always talked about being my best friend. So? What do you want me to do about it? I was surprised at how calm my voice sounded. Oh, stop pretending to be strong. You must be seething with jealousy inside, aren't you? My so-called best friend, who assumed I was hiding my true feelings, taunted me with a sneer. I was speechless. Could this be what they mean by being dumbfounded? It's okay. It must be frustrating to have your super beautiful best friend steal your man. But even if you say that, I won't give him back. If you don't have anything else, I'm going to hang up, okay? As I said that, she panicked and said, "Wait a minute." However, my self-proclaimed best friend, living in her fantasy world, twisted my cold response to suit her narrative, treating me like a loser. I didn't want to waste even a second on such a lowlife. I had to strike back to make her realize that it was she who would truly be upset. My name is Kate Campbell. I'm 30 years old and work as an accountant and secretary at a major corporation. I'm a little bit in happy mode, as I have a wedding coming up in 2 months. My partner is Patrick Collins, who works in the same company. He's 2 years older than me and works in the development department. We met when I picked up his heavy baggage after a collision, reminiscent of a scene from a drama. In reality, it wasn't the tall, handsome man who carried my stuff to my desk, it was me. Short and nervous, who picked up his heavy load and delivered it to his desk. That's how reality is. I found his somewhat unreliable nature, despite being older, somewhat endearing. Perhaps because I paid attention to him. I started bumping into him frequently in our large company building, and I couldn't help but feel it was fate. So, what's so good about him? He's so unremarkable. Maybe it's his sort of helpless charm? Kate, you really have bad taste. You're quite cute, you know? You could find someone decent if you tried a little harder. Hey. You're my best friend. And you're calling me a quite and talking about a decent people? No? Did you notice? Ha! Seriously, Michelle. I could never compete with a super beauty like you. That's good to know. Saying this, my self-proclaimed best friend, Michelle Owen, flipped her long hair. We joined the company together, and she works in administration. She just declared herself my best friend and, in a way, she's a formidable person. Claiming to be a super beauty without hesitation. She wanted to work in accounting or as a secretary like me but didn't get her wish. According to her, she took a lower position to hunt for men. Indeed, she did change boyfriends frequently, which was impressive in a weird way. One day, a woman in her 20s working at the reception had her boyfriend stolen by Michelle. And there was a commotion in the cafeteria during lunch. I was eating with a senior colleague from accounting when Michelle, the center of the commotion, showed up, and the whispering began. She's so rude. Why are they whispering? Just because I'm super beautiful doesn't mean they should be jealous. He fell for me because I'm more attractive. Ha! The person in question had no remorse and was completely defiant. It's a problem to ignore the presence of Michelle, who's causing harm to other employees in a place where we should be working. Kate Campbell thought, maybe I should consult someone about this. That night, I decided to consult someone about the situation. So, this is what's been happening. If I don't do something, it looks like more people might get hurt. And if the affected employees resign, it would be terrible. Yes, thank you for listening. That should do it. I finished reporting about Michelle over the phone. Michelle thinks of me as her best friend. But I've decided to keep my distance from her. With this thought, I decided to distance myself from her. Luckily, as a secretary, I often had to go outside the office. And during busy times in accounting, our lunch breaks would differ. So, for a while, I didn't have to see Michelle. We exchanged contact information reluctantly, but I never initiated contact. Michelle rarely contacted me, except to boast about her male conquests. Originally, she said she was seldom home at night or on weekends because she was always out. Anyway, if I could avoid any involvement with her, that was for the best. Sometime later, as Patrick and I were finalizing our wedding plans, I started spending more evenings and weekends with him. On one of those weekend afternoons, "Hey, we need to decide on the venue and plan soon, or we'll be in trouble later." We had already visited both families to announce our marriage. And Patrick had been indecisive as usual. Now, we needed to arrange the wedding. But he was still hesitant. "I'm fine with whatever you choose, Kate. We don't even have to have a wedding if you don't want to." No way. For a woman getting married for the first time, the wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's unthinkable not to have one. Then, even more reason for you to decide. Just stay within our budget, and I'm sure you have things you want to focus on, right? Really, Patrick? Don't you want to marry me? It's not that I don't want to, but I'm just not interested in the ceremony. I'm happy just being with you. Plus, I'm indecisive, so if you leave it to me, nothing will get done. Sigh. All right. But at least be there for the meetings, okay? I'll think about it when the time comes. He was indifferent and left everything to others. At the beginning of our relationship, I thought this trait was cute. But now I wondered if he would be a good father. This thought made me anxious. Well, maybe he'll change a bit once he becomes a dad. After returning home, I decided to look through wedding venue brochures and hope for the best. As it turned out, I ended up doing all the planning for our wedding by myself. Once the invitations were sent to my colleagues, a rumor started circulating in the office. "Kate, did you hear? Your fiancé, Patrick from the development department, is going to be the next company president." What? Where did you hear that? I was confused when my senior colleague in accounting approached me with this. The rumor was about Patrick, and it seemed to have originated from his department. The phrase, "next company president," spread quickly, and before I knew it, everyone was talking about it. I rushed to confront Patrick. "Patrick, what's going on? What do you mean?" "About the rumor. I don't know. A colleague of mine started it at a department drinking party." "Didn't you deny it?" "Was I supposed to?" "Of course. We agreed to keep it a secret for now. But I didn't say anything." Ugh. Not denying it is as good as admitting it and spreading the rumor yourself. Really? What should I do? Will I get in trouble? With the rumor spreading this much, it's only natural you might get scolded, right? Oh no. I don't like this. Patrick was worried about getting scolded by someone. But to me, that was the least of my worries. "Patrick, I'm not asking you to be perfect all the time. But you need to pull yourself together when it matters." This kind of attitude makes me feel uncertain about our future. What can I say to that? Even in crucial moments, his indifferent attitude was too much. And I started to feel a sense of revulsion, doubting my decision to marry him. And then the situation took an unbelievable turn. Just as I managed to quell the rumors spreading in the office, I received a call from the last person I wanted to talk to. Kate Campbell thought, "It's from Michelle, why now of all times?" I thought this but still answered the phone. Before I could even say hello, Michelle had already started talking. Kate? Sorry to disturb you just before you're about to tie the knot. What do you mean by sorry? You're so cold after not talking for a while. But I wonder what you'll think after hearing this. Isn't it rare for you, Michelle, to beat around the bush like this? Well, you know. I'm trying to be considerate since I kind of think of you as a best friend. I'm so nice. Skip the niceties. What do you want? Sigh. If you're going to be like that, fine. I'll get straight to the point. Don't break up with Patrick. What a sudden thing to say. Sorry, but the wedding is almost here. Can you stop with these bad jokes? A joke? Oh, dear Kate, Pat hasn't told you yet? I felt a wave of dread at Michelle's dismissive use of the Pat. Sadly, we're very much in love. You. What are you saying? Realizing the truth in Michelle's words, I said I'd confirm with Patrick and hung up. Michelle added in a sugary voice, poor you, being dumped by your beloved fiancé. Typical Michelle. Probably after hearing about Patrick's supposed future president status. She decided to snatch him away, dazzled by the prospect of money and elite status. Well, first things first. I needed to talk to Patrick. So, I called him that night. Didn't we already finish planning the wedding? Is there something else to do? What's with that attitude? Don't you have an idea why I called you before the wedding? Could it be about Shell? His casual mention of Michelle's name gave me a pretty good idea of what was going on. I wasn't interested, but Shell was insistent. And who wouldn't be flattered by a beautiful woman's advances? So you're saying it's not your fault? Exactly. You understand, right? Stop it. How could I possibly understand that? What? So, Patrick, you're saying you'd cheat with anyone who comes on to you? Is it cheating? How can you not understand? We're about to get married. And you're having an affair right before our wedding. If this isn't cheating, what is? But then, doesn't that mean you're also responsible? Huh? Lately, you've been getting angry all the time. Since it was Kate who asked me out and wanted to get married. It's her fault for not being able to keep me tied down. Enough. I get it. Let's break up. But in return, I want everything settled cleanly. Huh? So that's all your love for me was worth. Fine, I'll just be with Shell. I don't know what settlement you're talking about. But do whatever you like. Saying that, a frustrated Patrick turned on his heel and left. I hadn't thought he was this kind of person. The fact that I had brought our relationship to the point of marriage made me feel pathetic and ridiculous, and tears started to overflow. And then, I made a vow through my tears. I would ensure those who betrayed me received absolute retribution. When all the arrangements were in place, I received another call from Michelle. This saved me the trouble. Hi there. Thanks for breaking up with Pat. Sorry for stealing your rich boyfriend. Ha! I'm already pregnant, you know. But, to be a president's wife, you need more than what Kate has. Hearing this, I burst into laughter. The president is on my side, you know? That guy is unemployed and drowning in debt. Oh dear, has Kate gone crazy from being dumped by Pat? Really? I don't think I want to be lectured by a delusional, low-life girl living in a fantasy world. Hey. I'm being considerate here, don't get cocky. The president is on my side. As if. Talk in your sleep, why don't you? Too bad, but it's true. It would have been nice if it were just a dream, huh? Well, brace yourself for the reality that's about to hit you. With that, I hung up the phone. Before Michelle faces reality, let's talk about what happened to Patrick. Kate, what's this about? I have to pay compensation, wedding cancellation fees, and other damages all at once. A lawyer came saying if I don't pay, they'll sue me. Yes. Before talking to Patrick. After Michelle revealed her affair on the phone, I immediately consulted someone and hired a lawyer to investigate the affair. After confirming the facts with Patrick, I reported everything to a certain person I had consulted when Michelle caused a scene by stealing a receptionist's boyfriend, Grandpa. I'm sorry. So, that's why the marriage fell through. There's no need for Kate to apologize. But it seems Patrick was more of a puppet than we thought. Maybe Kate lacks a bit in judging men? Yes. I can't deny that. Both are to blame, but the worst one is that cunning woman. I should have dealt with her sooner after hearing from Kate. But don't worry, we've completed our investigation, and we'll deal with both of them properly. The person getting excited about dealing with them is my grandfather, who serves as the chairman of the large company I work for. I lost my parents in an accident when I was young and was raised by my grandparents. My grandmother passed away a few years ago due to illness. So it's been just my grandfather and me living together. Technically, there's also a live-in housekeeper, so it's 3 of us. Back to the story. The current president is my uncle, who has no children. It seems he had already decided that I, his granddaughter, would inherit the company. I was studying accounting and also working as the chairman's secretary to learn about the company. When I found a partner within the company, I suggested to my grandfather that Patrick could inherit the company. The 3 of us discussed his potential, but my grandfather never agreed, perhaps seeing through Patrick's true nature. Then, rumors about Patrick being the next president started circulating within the company. I told Patrick that it was a conversation for the future and made him promise not to divulge it. However, he ended up running away from this conversation. Moreover, just before our wedding, it was revealed that he had an affair with Michelle and even got her pregnant. Patrick, as usual, tried to excuse himself, saying he never wanted children, but that didn't hold up. Through the lawyer, we demanded he pay compensation, wedding cancellation fees, and compensation for the damage he caused to the company and me. Patrick, believing he wasn't at fault but faced with evidence of the affair and the child, was hit with the reality that he couldn't escape this situation. He contacted me in a panic. Don't think I'm not at fault will always work. I don't want your money, but you need to face what you've done to me. Oh, and you can't avoid disciplinary action at the company either. Wait. If I get fired from the company, how am I supposed to pay what you're demanding? I can't help you with that. Michelle will be facing disciplinary action too. Maybe you two should figure it out together? Then I'll get back together with Kate. I'll cut ties with Shell. And I'm not even sure if the child is really mine. If I do that, there's no need to pay for the wedding since it won't go to waste, right? So, let's get back together. Enough of this nonsense, you puppet. Geek. Oh no. You've made him angry. I had put Patrick's call on speakerphone, so my grandfather, who was sitting next to me, heard everything and erupted in anger, rebuking Patrick sharply. A man like you doesn't deserve Kate. The idea of you becoming the next president is preposterous. Kate is the one who will be president. You and that sly woman will both be dealt with later. Come to the company. With that, my grandfather hung up the phone. This marked the completion of the first phase of retribution against the first person. Just as I was contemplating the next step, I received another call from Michelle, saving me the trouble of reaching out to her. Hey. What's going on? As usual, Michelle started talking without even a hello. Sorry for confronting you with reality. I mimicked Michelle's tone mockingly. What do you mean? Pat isn't the next president. And he's drowning in debt. And now he's getting fired from the company. You should be worried about yourself too, Michelle. The lawyer must have visited you, right? Yes. What's this about compensation and compensation damages? And, to top it off, the receptionist is also demanding compensation from me. That's only fair. You snatched away someone's fiancé right before their wedding. The invitations were already sent out. You must properly compensate for that. I even taught the receptionist how to proceed with the legal process. Why? It's always you who ends up on top. Even though I'm beautiful, I always end up suffering. This was Michelle's complaint. She was envious and jealous of me, who was beloved and admired by everyone at the workplace. Engaged to be married, and in line to be the president's wife. She wrongly believed that Patrick was the next president, and plotted to overthrow me by snatching him away. If you keep harming others' happiness, you'll never find happiness yourself. It's sad that you can't realize that. I want happiness, so I try to take it from happy people. What's wrong with that? What you're doing is not taking, it's stealing. You're forcefully taking what's not yours. Despite my explanation, Michelle refused to understand, so I decided to end the conversation. Michelle. I think the company will contact you about your future. So? I said only that much and hung up the phone, knowing she wouldn't end the call herself. Then, Patrick and Michelle were summoned by the current president and my grandfather, the chairman. I was also asked to attend, so I went to the president's office. Excuse me. As I entered the room, Michelle was already complaining loudly. Wait, Mr. President. I'm pregnant and because of her. I'm now in debt due to the compensation. If I lose my job now, how am I supposed to pay back the money? Michelle noticed me and pointed at me with a puzzled frown. Next to her, Patrick was sitting, as indifferent as ever. Pat. Say something. It's your fault I'm pregnant with a child I didn't even want. You were the one who came on to me. I had no interest in you. What? You're blaming me, a woman? Sighing at the pathetic blame game unfolding, my grandfather entered the room. Enough. Your squabbling can be heard all the way outside. Realizing his presence, Patrick abruptly stood up and apologized deeply. Meanwhile, Michelle. Huh? Who are you? I'm busy right now, so irrelevant old men should leave. The company president turned pale upon hearing these words. Even Patrick, usually indifferent, contorted his face. Irrelevant, old man. Patrick Collins Shell, don't you know who this is? Patrick nervously glanced back and forth between Michelle and my grandfather as he spoke. If I knew, I wouldn't be asking. You must be some security or cleaning old man, right? Now I'm a cleaning old man, am I? The president was about to faint, unable to utter a word. This man is Kate's grandfather and... Huh? Wait, Kate. Why did you bring your grandpa here? Oh, that's right, you don't have parents. Acting as your guardian? What are you, a child? There's more to it. Shut up. Hey, old man. Don't you think this woman needs some discipline? Enough of this. You sly fox. What did you say? You old fool. Michelle Owen. Stop it. Is that how you speak to our company's chairman? As his secretary, I can't tolerate such disrespect. Continue like this, and I'll sue you for defamation. What, chairman? Really? Michelle froze at my words. She knew the chairman held all the decision-making power but had never met him in person. She could have known if she had just looked at the company website. What do you think this place is? It's the company president's office, you know? As I spoke coldly, Michelle, coming to her senses, collapsed weakly. Patrick Collins. Michelle Owen. You both have committed acts unbefitting towards my granddaughter, the future president of our company. In a workplace where you should be dedicating yourselves to the company's benefit, you've engaged in deplorable behavior and troubled other employees. Therefore, I am terminating your employment for misconduct. But excuses are unseemly. Yes, sorry. Michelle Owen. Anything to say? Well, I didn't know, but sorry for calling you an old man. I sense no sincerity. Well, fine. I'll refrain from suing for defamation. Instead, expect a demand for full compensation for damages. Kate, anything to add? No. I appreciate the chairman's generous judgment. It's been a learning experience. I bowed and left the room, leaving the two, unable to move, behind. With that, the matter seemed to be resolved, for now. As for the two who lost everything, they moved into a rundown apartment resembling a warehouse. Patrick, who had always been indifferent, could no longer afford to be so due to the hefty debt demanded by the company and me. Disowned by his parents and with a child born from his affair with Michelle, he was now juggling multiple jobs, working tirelessly day and night. Michelle, despite her beauty, had also accumulated a massive debt. Without money for cosmetics or beauty treatments, she rapidly aged. Feeling sorry for the child born into such a situation, Michelle's parents, although they cut ties with her, took in the baby under the condition that it was until the two could stabilize their lives. Michelle, too, was working various part-time jobs from morning till night. It was all a result of their own actions. I hoped they would reflect and at least become decent parents for their child. As for me, following my grandfather's advice, I was relieved to have broken off the engagement with Patrick before the wedding. As the future president, I decided to focus on my secretarial work and learn more about the company, aiming to create a work environment where no one like Michelle could emerge, where employees could comfortably work and consult about anything. Love was not off the table, but I thought I'd better develop a better judgment of character before meeting someone new. Since the incident with Patrick, my grandfather, the chairman, had been treating me with great kindness, taking me on trips and to meals on his days off. The housekeeper, too, had recently been caring for me like a real mother, teaching me cooking and spending time together in the kitchen. So, here I am, enjoying my days, both at work and in my personal life, feeling content and happy.
Oh, who do we have here? If it isn't Erin, is it really you?
The moment I heard that voice, the nightmares of my hellish married life came flooding back, and I turned around with goosebumps all over my skin. There stood my grinning ex-husband, snuggled up close with a young woman. The very person who showed me hell during our first marriage was now standing right before me.
To think we'd meet here, of all places? It's been a while, hasn't it?
The ex-wife? Nice to meet you. The young woman next to him greeted me in a high-pitched voice. My ex-husband put his arm around her.
Oh, this is my current wife. Young and cute, don't you think? Nothing like you.
As I attempted to leave, my ex-husband stopped me and looked me up and down.
Look at you, still single and unemployed at your age. A poor thing. This is what happens when you couldn't serve me properly. Serves you right.
Hey, that's a bit too much. But well, it's true. I was seething inside. I had to say something to them. Turning back to face them, I asked calmly, "Hey, who exactly are you talking about?" My name is Erin Johnson. I've been married to Brad for 2 years. In fact, I was married once before I met my current husband. That marriage was so miserable I'd rather not recall it. The man I first married was Gary McKay. We met at the small to mid-sized company where I started working fresh out of school. Gary, who was my mentor, seemed manly and dependable. Naive in love, I was thrilled when he asked me out, and quickly agreed to date him. But Gary always had a bit of a tyrannical streak. He'd get moody if I talked to other male colleagues, or be rude to restaurant staff. Yet love is blind. After 2 years of dating, he proposed and we got married. At his insistence, I became a housewife upon our marriage. Once we started our married life, it became clear that his manly personality was just overbearing.
You're a housewife now, so do the household chores perfectly. That's your job.
He never helped with the housework. No matter how hard I tried, he wouldn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, he would nitpick everything about the housework and finances. Still grateful to be a housewife, I kept at it. 3 months into our marriage, in the winter, I came down with a terrible cold. I felt awful from the morning and had a fever of over 100 degrees. I was shivering and dizzy, unable to do any housework. When Gary returned from work and saw me wrapped in a blanket, he visibly frowned.
I'm home. What are you doing lying down?
Gary, welcome back. I seem to have caught a cold, and I have a fever of over 100 degrees. I tried to explain, but Gary impatiently surveyed the house and was furious.
Hey, you haven't done any cleaning or laundry.
I've been feeling sick since the morning. I couldn't possibly do it.
Don't make excuses. You're a housewife.
He shouted and pulled off my blanket.
You haven't even prepared my dinner. Make it now.
But I told you, I have a high fever. I can't possibly cook. Tears filled my eyes as I pleaded, but Gary was indifferent. He got me up and handed me a $10 bill.
Then go buy something right now with this.
Huh?
Don't you dare buy anything for yourself. You're skipping dinner as punishment for neglecting your chores. Go buy something just for me right now.
Gary dragged staggering me to the entrance and threw me out of the house. There I was outside in the freezing cold, in my pajamas. It seemed I wouldn't be allowed back in until I bought something. After managing to do the shopping, I collapsed at the entrance as soon as I returned. Gary glanced at me, grabbed the things I had bought, and began to eat in silence while watching TV. As I lay collapsed in the cold entrance, hearing Gary's laughter from a distance, a single tear rolled down my cheek. The reason I hadn't considered divorce was because of my father, who had been so happy about my marriage. My mother passed away from illness when I was in junior high, and since then it had been just my father and me. Life with my father, who ran a small stationery store, wasn't wealthy, but it was happy, filled with love from my kind father. When I got married, he said with tears,
Now I can finally rest easy. Be happy.
To divorce so soon after getting married would be like betraying my gentle father. I thought I just had to endure it for myself. Gary's domineering ways continued. I endured, drained by the exhausting days of our marriage. About a year into the marriage, bad news struck. My father was hospitalized with advanced cancer. Dad, I had no idea things had gotten this bad. My father, lying in the hospital bed, had lost a lot of weight since I'd last seen him.
Oh, I realized too late. Seems there's nothing more they can do.
I cried quietly as my father spoke. He wiped my tears and asked gently,
Erin, are you happy in your marriage?
I lied on impulse. I didn't want to worry my father in his sick bed. Yes, I'm happy. Gary is really good to me.
Is that so? That's good then.
Looking back, my father might have sensed something then, but he didn't say anything more. On top of housework, I now had to care for my father, making life even harder. I had been managing the detailed household chores Gary demanded during the day, but with my father's care added, it became difficult. In the midst of this, I asked Gary, I have a favor to ask. Could you visit my father in the hospital?
Huh? Why should I?
Gary frowned and looked at me. Well, you're technically his son-in-law. Showing your face would surely make him happy.
What are you talking about? I don't want to see the face of some dying old man.
I stared at Gary in disbelief as he continued.
Besides, don't let caring for some old man affect your chores. Prioritize.
With that, Gary walked off to the bathroom, looking annoyed. Later, as my father's condition worsened and I spent more time at the hospital, Gary didn't support me, but rather kept blaming me for neglecting the housework. On the day of my father's surgery, when I said I'd be away for the day, Gary got furious.
Hey, don't mess around. What do you think a wife's job is?
But it's my dad's surgery day.
So what about my food? The cleaning? The laundry?
Can't you manage for just one day? I said this with newfound courage, and Gary sighed dramatically, pulling something out of his bag. It was a divorce form. Eh? A divorce form?
That's right. I'm supporting you, and if you can't even do the housework properly, then it's divorce.
But it's about my dad. I'm his only family.
That's none of my concern. If you're going to skip housework to be at the surgery, then consider it an immediate divorce. Think hard about it.
Gary said this and left for work. I stood dumbfounded in front of the divorce papers he left on the table, but I had no choice but to accompany my father during the surgery. When the surgery was over and my father woke up, I was crying by his bedside. Dad, are you awake? As I hastily wiped my tears, my father spoke softly.
You're really having a hard time with your marriage, aren't you? It's okay, I had a feeling.
Dad, I'm sorry. I might get a divorce. I'm so sorry, especially after you were so happy about the marriage. I sobbed like a child and told my father everything that had happened. He listened, nodding, and then said to me,
Aaron, there's something I've never told you before. Actually.
I was stunned by the shocking revelation. When I returned home, Gary was waiting for me, furious.
Hey, you skipped the chores and went to the hospital, didn't you?
Yes.
Huh, then it's divorce. Hurry up and read through the divorce form.
Gary forced me to sit at the dining table where the divorce papers were on. I asked him quietly, Are you really going to abandon me? Abandon me while I'm overwhelmed with caring for my father?
Yes, that's right. Whether your old man kicks the bucket and you're left all alone, I don't care. A defective wife like you, I'm glad to get rid of.
I silently took the divorce papers and left the house that day. Standing at the entrance with my belongings, Gary had one last thing to say.
Goodbye. Don't ever show your face to me again, you lousy wife.
Shortly after, I returned to my childhood home to continue caring for my father. But within 3 months, my father passed away. After the funeral, when things had calmed down a bit, a lawyer came to see me.
I'm here about your father's estate.
I remembered what my father had told me on the day of his surgery.
Aaron, I've kept this hidden, but for the past 10 years I've been trading stocks and cryptocurrencies.
What? Dad, why are you saying this now?
I've accumulated a significant amount of money. When I pass, it will all be yours. Don't worry about divorcing. You won't struggle financially. Break free and live your own life.
Dad.
Your happiness is all I wish for. Please, don't lose your way.
Knowing this gave me the strength to go through with the divorce. However, when the lawyer told me the amount I was inheriting, I was shocked. Even after taxes, I was left with $3 million and several properties. My father, who ran a small stationery shop, had a talent for making money. I gratefully accepted the inheritance as per the lawyer's guidance. Later, when I was struggling with property management, I met my current husband, Brad. Born into a landlord family, he easily resolved my problems. After that, Brad proposed a relationship with marriage in mind, and I decided to remarry. Attracted to his competence and kindness, I now live a happy life. I hoped to continue this peaceful life with the person I love. But then, during a visit to a real estate office for some errands, I had a nightmarish reunion. I ran into my ex-husband, Gary.
Oh? Who do we have here, if it isn't Aaron?
The moment I heard that voice, the nightmares of my hellish married life came flooding back, and I turned around with goosebumps all over my skin. There stood Gary, grinning, standing close to a young woman.
Never thought we'd meet here, of all places. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Gary's ex-wife. Nice to meet you. The young woman next to him greeted me in a high-pitched voice. My ex-husband put his arm around her.
Oh, this is my current wife, Rita. Young and cute, right? She's nothing like you.
I responded to Gary's introduction without emotion. I have something to do now, so will you please not be concerned with me?
Hey. Is that your attitude after bumping into your ex-husband by chance? Can't you at least make some small talk?
As I remained silent, Gary looked me up and down.
You're all dressed up, but what are you doing at a real estate agency? Let me guess. You're looking for some shabby apartment to live in by yourself?
That's none of your business. Then Rita noticed the bag I was carrying. This lady has a super expensive bag, you know. Gary, didn't you say your ex-wife was unemployed?
Don't be stupid, Rita. It's obviously a fake. Just a poor person's pretense.
Oh, really? That's so shameful. They laughed together, with Gary smiling at Rita. I watched them with a look of disdain, and then Gary turned back to me, sneering.
What's wrong? Jealous? A poor, single, jobless woman at your age. You're living a miserable life because you couldn't serve me properly. Serves you right.
Hey, Gary, that's too much. But well, it's true though. I was fuming inside. I had to say something. As I turned back to them, I asked calmly, "Excuse me, who exactly are you talking about?"
Huh?
At that moment, a senior executive from the real estate company approached me.
Mrs. Johnson, we are very sorry for keeping you waiting. Today, you wanted to discuss the apartment complex you own, I believe?
I responded respectfully to the executive. Yes, thank you for your assistance. But before we talk, I've just run into an acquaintance. Could I have a moment?
Of course. We'll be waiting.
Gary and Rita watched our exchange with dumbfounded expressions.
Huh? Owns an apartment?
I replied to Gary with a sigh. Yes, I'm currently the owner of several properties. I'm here today to discuss a contract for them.
Huh? Real estate? You?
As he struggled to comprehend, I enlightened him. The father you ridiculed had made millions from stock trading and owned several properties. I inherited all of that estate.
What? You had the inheritance from him and kept it secret to me?
You were the one who ridiculed and abandoned me and my dad, weren't you? Gary's mouth opened and closed in shock, his face changing colors rapidly. Eventually, he began to kneel before me.
Erin, I'm sorry about back then. I'll break up with her, so please marry me again.
What? Gary, what are you saying? Rita looked at him in shock. As I looked down at him expressionlessly, Gary pleaded.
Actually, my company is going under and I'm in financial trouble.
What? I didn't know about that.
Shut up. You be quiet. Erin, please. We were once married, remember?
Just as Gary was about to reach out to me, a solemn voice resonated.
Please don't touch my wife. What's the meaning of this? Who are you people?
Standing there was my current husband, Brad, who had arrived a bit late. Brad wrapped his arm around my shoulder and glared at Gary. Tall and dressed in a well-tailored suit, Brad exuded an aura of wealth. Gary shrank back and muttered,
Wife? Erin, you remarried?
Yes, I've been remarried for a while now, to a man with more financial power and character than you.
That's...
Gary's face fell for a moment, but then he began to say something outrageous.
Then, Erin, lend me some money. No, give me some. Just $1 million is fine. You're rich now, aren't you?
I shouted back at him. After the way you treated me, why would I give you anything? Don't ever show your pathetic face to me again. Leave now with that woman. Shocked by my outburst, Gary realized he couldn't get any money from me. He then turned to Rita, reaching out his hand with a quiet voice.
Rita, let's go.
Don't touch me. Rita lashed out at the dejected Gary. I can't believe you kept quiet about your company going under. You were just after my dad's money, weren't you? He's the president of a construction company.
No, it's not like that. Believe me, I love you.
You just said you'd divorce me. Stop making a fool of me. Fine, I'll divorce you, so be prepared. I'll contact you through my lawyer. With that, Rita quickly left the scene. Apparently, she was a young lady from a wealthy family. Gary stood there, dumbfounded. In his ear, I whispered, relishing the moment, "A poor, single, jobless person serves you right." Leaving a dejected Gary, Brad and I left the scene. According to rumors I heard later, Gary and Rita indeed got divorced. Rita's parents, who ran a construction company, were furious and kicked out Gary, who had virtually become a son-in-law, leaving him penniless. Later, Gary managed to find a shabby apartment and now lives there alone, working hard in physical labor day and night. I will never forgive Gary. Even now, I feel no sympathy for him. As for me, I continue to live a peaceful life with Brad. I am always filled with gratitude for my father, who saved me from my plight, and for Brad, who taught me what true happiness is. Recently, I found out I'm pregnant. Brad is looking forward to the birth of our child. I want to continue walking this happy path in life with my new family.
It was 10 minutes before the start of my father's funeral. Rose, where are you? Dad's funeral is about to start. Sorry, I think I'll pass. Too much hassle. What? What are you saying? It's our own father's funeral. How can you say it's too much hassle? My sister, who had been misbehaving since we were children, even canceled attending our father's funeral. No matter how many times I called, she wouldn't respond. In addition to her outrageous behavior, she had the audacity to demand her share of our father's inheritance. I had overlooked various things up until now, but this time I couldn't forgive her. Unbelievable. This is too cruel. Just after our father passed away, she demanded her inheritance without a moment's delay. I absolutely cannot let things go her way. At that moment, writhing in frustration towards my sister, I was shocked by a truth revealed by our mother. My name is Emily. In my family home, there are my father, mother, and my older sister Rose, who is 2 years older than me. Rose has always been troublesome, even dropping out of high school. She often caused problems, forcing our parents to apologize to the school. After dropping out, she lived almost like a social withdrawal. She stayed at home, mooching off our parents, causing endless trouble. And for good reason. My father was a wealthy man, owning multiple stocks and real estate. His estimated assets were around $3,500,000. Perhaps Rose became such a twisted person because she was raised without any hardships. Both father and mother often lamented that they had spoiled Rose too much. Her arrogant attitude was astonishing even to me, her sister. When I was still a university student living at home, Rose would demand money from our mother almost daily. "Hey, Mom, I'm going out with friends, give me some money." "Rose, didn't I give you money just the other day? Besides, your father only gives me money for living expenses, so..." "Huh? Don't lie to me. Dad has money, there's no way that's true." "It's true." "So, Rose, if you need money, please get a job or something." "Shut up. Why should I work when my parents are rich?" "Ridiculous. Just give it to me now." Rose forcefully took the wallet from our mother's purse and snatched the money. She often raised her hand against our mother when she tried to take it back. Each time, I would yell at my sister, "Rose, what are you doing? Ugh, you're always in the way. Can you just not be in my sight?" "What? Return the money to Mom right now. It's unforgivable to raise your hand against your own parents." Ugh, so annoying. Playing the good girl, huh? I get it. You're just acting nice to get more inheritance later. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter at all. I know everything. You're just playing the hypocrite for the future inheritance. Rose threw the wallet at me. She laughed through her nose and left as the wallet hit my head. My mother, crying, said to me, "I'm really sorry. It wasn't our mother's fault at all." However, at the time, I was just a university student and could only talk back to my sister. My father, who ran a real estate business, was seldom home. I had to protect my mother, but even that was something I couldn't do satisfactorily. I was frankly fed up with my own powerlessness. The only smart thing about my sister was that she acted like a good girl only in front of our father. She was rough only in front of our mother and me. In front of our father, she would sweetly ask for pocket money. Hey, Dad, lend me some money." Each time, my father would sigh and respond, "Enough of this. You quit high school on your own, so work properly. Then hire me at your place. Real estate companies pay well, right? I can't hire a good-for-nothing like you. Understand? Go work somewhere else for social experience and learn about the harshness of the world." Dad, that's so mean. I'm asking you nicely. Eventually, she always resorted to crying to get her way. Of course, father never lent her money unconditionally due to his strictness with her. Maybe out of spite for not being able to coax our father. She gradually started to pester our mother and me for money. She demanded money from us when our father wasn't around, and if we didn't comply, she would use verbal abuse to coerce us. That was my sister's way. Several years later, Rose announced she was getting married to a guy she was dating and left home abruptly. Thanks to that, peace returned to our home and we regained a tranquil life. I spent 2 happy years until I graduated from university. Afterward, I left home when I got a job and am now 24. I'm living alone while working as an office worker in a major corporation. As I was leaving the office as usual one day, I heard a familiar voice calling, "Emily." Despite a bad feeling, I turned towards the voice, and there was my sister, Rose. Lost for words for a while, she boldly approached me. "Long time no see, Emily. How've you been?" "Rose. Why are you here?" "One of your classmates has a sister who's my friend. I heard about your workplace through her." "Wow, working at such a big company, huh?" Laughing vulgarly as she always did, I feared being seen by my colleagues if she stayed here. I grabbed her hand and moved to a deserted alleyway. Honestly, I didn't want to be involved and wished to get it over with if there was a reason for her visit. I got straight to the point. "Rose, what do you want? Why have you come to see me? Don't look so scary. I just want to borrow some money." "Huh? Again? No way. Besides, didn't you get married? Why not ask your husband?" I divorced him quickly. Then I kept moving between boyfriends' houses. But I broke up with the last guy too. I'm in trouble because I have no money. But why? Come to me. If I go home, Dad will just turn me away, right? So I thought you'd be more reliable. Rose shamelessly demands money from her sister. It's deeply disappointing to think we're related by blood. Of course, I had no intention of lending her money. I firmly declined. "Sorry, but I don't have the luxury to lend money." "Oh, okay. Then I'll stay at your place." "Huh? Stop it. Then lend me the money? If you don't, I'll just follow you home, okay?" That's troubling. If she learns where my house is, she'll definitely squat there. I absolutely want to avoid that. Reluctantly, I decided to lend her money. I withdrew money from an ATM at a convenience store and gave her $350. "Here. Is this enough?" Please, stop following me and don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I get it. Oh, give me your contact info. I changed my phone, you know why. There's no need to contact each other. Just in case. You never know what might happen, right? What if I can't contact you when I need to return the money? Okay. Despite knowing she has no intention of returning it, I curse my sister in my heart. After getting her way with the money, she leaves the scene cheerfully. Sigh. I'm exhausted. Can she really be older than me? So irresponsible, having such a sister is just embarrassing. Since that day, I've become wary of my surroundings when leaving work. I can't afford to be found by her again. To ensure I'm not taken advantage of again, I pay extra attention. A few days later, while working at the office as usual, my smartphone suddenly rang. I thought to call back during my break, but the call kept coming. Feeling suspicious, I checked the screen and saw it was my mother's name. With a bad feeling, I stepped out of the office to answer the call. Hello? As soon as I answered, my mother let out a cry of anguish. Emily. It's terrible. Your father. Emily, Mom? What happened to Dad? Your father collapsed and he's unconscious. You're kidding, right? Dad? That can't be. Come to the hospital right now. Please, Emily. Mother hung up the phone weakly. I immediately told my boss about the situation and headed to the hospital she mentioned. But by the time I arrived, my father had already passed away. In the hospital room, only my mother's sobbing could be heard. Before I could even grieve, I had to start arranging the wake and funeral. Amidst this, I suddenly remembered exchanging contact information with my sister. Although I didn't like it at the time, it was still about her real parent. So I guess I should let her know. I quickly decided to call my sister. Rose? It's me. My sister answered after a few rings, and I briefly explained the situation. So that's the situation. Make sure you come to the wake and the funeral, okay? Sorry, I can't make it to the wake. Despite our father's passing, my sister responded casually. Well, I'll go to the funeral though. What do you mean by that? He's your father, you know? Can't help it, right? I have a date planned. Huh? A date? That's not something you prioritize over your father's funeral. So noisy. I said I'd go to the funeral, right?
Bye.
Then. Wait. Rose. My call was in vain as she hung up unilaterally. I'm beyond dismayed that she'd prioritize a date over our father's wake. I couldn't bring myself to tell my mother the truth and vaguely conveyed the message. Rose said she's busy and can only come to the funeral. I see. Okay. I silently watched my mother's weak response from behind. On the day of the funeral, I continued to greet attendees with my mother, but my sister Rose was nowhere to be seen. As time passed, it was 10 minutes before the funeral was to start. This was too late, even for her. After telling my mother, I stepped outside the funeral hall to call my sister. Finally, she answered, sounding irritable. Hello? Rose, where are you? Dad's funeral is about to start. Sorry, it's too much of a hassle, so I'm passing. What? What are you saying? It's our own father's funeral, how can you say it's too much hassle? I'm busy with a lot of things. So, take care of it, will you? The call was abruptly ended, and no matter how many times I redialed, my sister did not answer. At that point, my anger towards her exploded. I could forgive past grievances, but not this time. Not attending the funeral of the father who took such care of us. I absolutely cannot forgive this. Struggling to contain my rising anger, I returned to the funeral hall. My sister never showed up for our father's funeral. After the funeral, I told my mother about my feelings at home. Mom, I'm sorry. I couldn't get Rose to come to the end. I did try to persuade her. Why are you saying sorry, Emily? You did nothing wrong. But she's still our family, and I didn't want her to make a fuss later. Don't worry. Your father knew this would happen. What do you mean? Actually. As my mother slowly began to speak, I listened in disbelief. I had no idea that all this was going on behind the scenes. That's why, Emily, you don't have to worry. She has no recourse now.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me, Mom. It's okay. To properly inform the family of the facts was also your father's last wish. Thus, I continued to uphold my father's legacy alongside my mother. A few days later, sure enough, a call came from my sister. Hello, Emily? It's me. Rose. What do you need? It's about Dad's inheritance. It's about time to talk about my share, right? That's why I called. I knew from my mother that my sister would contact me about the inheritance. She might not have come to the wake or the funeral, but she would definitely demand her share of the inheritance. As I remained silent, my sister continued cheerfully. Hey, are you listening? Anyway, I expect my share of the inheritance to be transferred to me, okay? Rose, don't you know? Huh? Know what? There's no inheritance for you. What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? If you don't know, it's fine. Explaining is a waste of time. Just know that there's nothing for you. Don't joke around. Hey, wait. Cutting off my sister's voice, I hung up the phone without hesitation. Afterward, she tried calling several times, but I ignored all of them. She apparently even showed up at our family home. I received a message from my mother and rushed to our family home. As soon as I arrived, my sister, with her face red with anger, started yelling. Just a minute, Emily. What was that about on the phone? Explain it properly. There's not much to explain. Like I said earlier, you're not getting any inheritance. That's why. Explain the reason why. Just after our father's passing, all my sister can think about is the inheritance. She has no empathy, no human decency. I have no obligation to show her sympathy. Seizing the moment, I laid out the harsh reality to her. Rose, you didn't come to Dad's funeral, right? That's everything. What does that have to do with anything? Now's not the time for that, right? The family members who come to see me for the last time will each receive $700,000 from the inheritance. The rest will be donated. That was Dad's will. What? In other words, you have no right to Dad's inheritance because you didn't come to the funeral. You're joking, right? That can't be. Unable to accept reality, my sister's face contorted, showing a forced smile. To her, I continued speaking. Do you think Dad left such a will as a joke? But I'm Dad's eldest daughter. His firstborn, his beloved child, right? How can you even say that? After all the trouble you've caused and only ever coming to ask for money. My expression must have been as cold as ice. Seeing me, my sister flinched. To her, I mercilessly threw my final words. After using the family for money all this time, you still haven't learned your lesson. Skipping our important father's funeral to prioritize a date. You must have been playing with men all day, right? Unbelievable. How can you shamelessly think of only claiming the inheritance now? When will you stop embarrassing yourself? Wait. I get it. I'm so sorry. Let's go back to the inheritance issue. It's too late now. Do you even understand how our parents felt all this time? How much our family has suffered because of you? Your apologies mean nothing to me now. Emily, calm down, okay? Shut up. I have no intention of making up with you. If you understand, then leave this house immediately. Never show your face in front of Mom again. Repeating I'm sorry, I grabbed my sister's arm and pushed her out. She cried out for a while, but eventually stopped, perhaps finally realizing her mistakes. When I went outside at the right moment, my sister was nowhere to be seen. I don't know what happened to her afterward. Where she is, what she's doing, who she's with, I have no idea. Whether she changed her ways or not, whether she's living the same life as before. Either way, my mother and I have no intention of seeing her again. Unless something drastic happens, she probably won't come looking for us either. I currently live with my mother. Our family home was too big for just Mom. And considering any emergencies, it seemed better to live together. After the inheritance was settled, we sold the family home and Mom moved into my apartment. Mom has suffered a lot because of my sister. Now, I want to make her happy, for Dad's sake too.
Hello, this is the police. Your child is looking for you. When I answered the ringing phone, a police officer suddenly told me that, "What? But my daughter is doing her homework right next to me?" I was taken aback and had to ask again. My 10-year-old daughter was doing her school homework right beside me. Unable to understand the situation, I replied anxiously. The officer insisted that they were with my daughter. According to the officer, the child they had found had a note with my name and address. When I spoke to the child over the phone, the voice sounded strangely familiar. To confirm the truth, I rushed to the police station where she was. To my surprise, a boy with a face similar to my daughter's was there. The boy smiled when he saw me. Is this reality? I was simply astonished and just stood there staring at the boy. My name is Yuki Turner, and I am 41 years old. It's been 11 years since I got married. My husband's name is Ken, and we have a daughter named Maya. We are a regular family of 3. I met Ken at a matchmaking party when I was 30, and we started dating. We got married a year later. Ken works for a major company and is well respected by everyone. Many envied me for marrying such a man. But the reality of marriage wasn't always rosy. I found out that Ken really cherished his mother. To the outside world, it seemed excessive, and he was what you'd call a mama's boy. My father-in-law had already passed away, and my sister-in-law was married and lived far away. Perhaps because of this, my mother-in-law, who lived nearby, was overly involved in our lives. She treated me, her daughter-in-law, like an enemy and often came to our house to complain and make sarcastic remarks. Whenever I knew she was coming, I would get a stomach ache and feel down. I began to question the closeness between Ken and his mother during our honeymoon. When we arrived at the airport in Hawaii, his mother suddenly appeared. When Ken saw her, his eyes lit up with joy. "What? Mom, you came." "Of course. I was worried about you, so I came to see how you're doing." Seeing Ken run to his mother with such joy, I felt a chill down my spine. Despite it being our honeymoon, we ended up spending all of our time with her, even sharing the same hotel. It didn't stop there. When we took a taxi, I sat in the front seat, and Ken and his mother sat together in the back, shoulder to shoulder. I thought, is this a honeymoon for Ken and his mother, not for me and Ken? I felt frustrated throughout the trip. After returning home, we finally started our married life, just the 2 of us. Realizing Ken's attachment to his mother, I even thought of divorce on the first day of our marriage. However, considering our families, friends, and relatives who were happy for us, I couldn't make that decision. One day, while I was in this state of mind, I noticed changes in my body and went to the hospital. I found out I was pregnant. Given my current feelings towards Ken, I was confused, but the presence of this new life gave me hope. I decided to continue our marriage for the sake of our unborn child. Surely Ken will change once he has his own child. I thought so and went through my pregnancy with hope. However, there's no change of my husband Ken's excessive attachment to his mother changing. Still, as my belly grew bigger day by day, I felt joy with the presence of the baby inside me. During one of my prenatal checkups, I found out I was expecting twins. I get to meet 2 babies at once. I was excited about this, but one of them passed away shortly after birth. I blamed myself, thinking maybe it was my fault the baby didn't make it. But now, I've decided to cherish and love my daughter Maya, as if also for the child I lost. As for Ken, he didn't seem to understand or share my grief and determination. Even after our child was born, he was just excited with his mother. "Oh, she looks just like Ken. Look at this nose. Such a lovely face. Willie, it's a bit embarrassing when you say that, Mom." "Yes. Look, she's beautiful. She will surely be as smart as Ken." She kept praising Ken endlessly. But when Maya started to show signs of stranger anxiety and cried upon seeing her grandmother, the latter remarked, "What's this? She lacks the charm and cuteness just like Yuki." From then on, she didn't try to be affectionate towards Maya. Moreover, every time we met, my mother-in-law's words and attitude towards me became cold and prickly. "You know, Ken honestly wasn't that fond of you. He chose you because I told him to get married soon. It's just a coincidence." Upon hearing those words, I was deeply hurt. I couldn't believe Ken would say such a thing, but when I mustered up the courage to ask, he said the same to me. Even after hearing such heartless words, I diligently managed household chores, childcare, and prepared meals for Ken. However, during meals, I always received the same comment from Ken. The taste is different. You know, Mom's cooking is really good. Maybe you should learn from her." Given such treatment, I've considered divorce countless times. However, fearing it would hurt Maya, I decided to endure at least until she became an adult. In this difficult situation, only Maya's smiles kept me going. Time passed, and Maya turned 10. She seemed to notice the odd relationship between her father and grandmother. When I was feeling anxious, Maya assured me, "It's okay. I'm always on your side, Mom." Then, one day, an unexpected event occurred. I received a sudden call from the police. "Hello, this is the police. Your child is looking for you here." "What? But my daughter is right here doing her homework." "No, it's not her. It's your son. Could you come and pick him up immediately with some identification?" I told them I only have a daughter. However, they explained that the boy they found had a note with my name and address on it. At first, I suspected a prank. The voice I hesitantly heard from the other end of the line sounded eerily familiar. With mixed feelings, I went to the police station. There, I saw a boy who looked exactly like my daughter. Seeing me, he exclaimed, "Mom." "What? No way, that's impossible." Confused, I just stood there, trying to process the situation. "I knew it. You're my mom. You have the same face as in the photo. I'm so glad I finally got to meet you." "Wait, what's your name?" "Me. I'm Kevin." With a big smile, he showed me a photo he was holding. That photo was unmistakably of me. Although it was hard to believe, I deeply wanted to know if this boy, Kevin, was really my child. With that thought, I decided to ask him further questions. "Hey, Kevin, how old are you now? Can you tell me your birth date?" "Me. I just turned 10. and I learned his birthday was the same as my daughter Maya's. The moment I heard that, I was certain. Yes, he is the son I gave birth to 10 years ago. This is definitely the boy from 10 years ago. The boy I was told died right after birth. His voice even sounds like Maya's. Back then, I was pregnant with twins. The birth put too much strain on me, causing me to lose consciousness mid-labor, leading to an emergency cesarean section. When I regained consciousness, my husband Ken told me the heartbreaking news that our son had passed away. Since then, I had lived without any knowledge of my son, and now, the moment I realized Kevin was alive, right in front of me, it felt like a dream. I involuntarily pinched my cheek to check if it was real. They told me, right after you were born, you went to heaven. I always believed that. Kevin, where have you been living all this time? There were so many mysteries about what had transpired in his life. Kevin began telling me about the past 10 years. It was a shocking revelation. It turned out that the couple who had raised Kevin was my estranged sister-in-law and her husband. What? Why? How come? I genuinely had no idea you were alive. You must have felt so lonely and sad. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Mom. It wasn't like that. My current parents treated me just like their real child and cared for me. However, when Kevin reached elementary school, he began to suspect he didn't resemble either of his parents. Moreover, 3 years ago, a little sister who looked just like his father was born, deepening his suspicions. And then, by chance, Kevin came across a New Year's greeting card I had sent to my sister-in-law, which had a picture of a girl who looked just like him. You see, in that greeting card, there was a girl who looked just like me. Having seen that, Kevin wanted to verify the truth and use the address on the card to come to this police box. The house of my sister-in-law is a 3-hour train ride away. We had hardly met in the past 10 years. Although I continued to send New Year's cards without any response, just the thought of those cards reconnecting our bond was deeply emotional. I thought about asking my parents many times, but it was difficult. So I decided to find out for myself and came here. It must have been tough coming all the way here by yourself. Thank you for coming, Kevin. I never imagined I'd see you again. It truly feels like a dream. Ever since I was little, I loved trains. So I often rode them with my dad. That's why I wasn't scared to take the train by myself. From a young age, Kevin liked route maps and memorized them, so he was able to navigate to my town without getting lost. However, he couldn't locate my house using just the address and had asked a police officer for directions, who then contacted me. I informed him that the girl in the photo, who looked like him, was his sister Maya. I see. So, she's my little sister. Kevin looked at me with a happy smile. Meeting Kevin filled me with joy and happiness, but as my excitement settled, many questions started surfacing. Why did they lie and say that the baby, Kevin, I gave birth to had passed away and let the stepsister and her husband raise him? From what my mother-in-law and husband told me, my stepsister's husband runs a company and is so busy that he cannot afford time for anything other than work. They said they kept their distance to avoid causing him inconvenience. Now I think that was just an excuse to keep Kevin's existence hidden from me. However, even if I wanted to know the truth, questioning my mother-in-law and Ken, who have been deceiving me with lies for 10 years, would just lead to them evading the issue. So I decided to contact my stepsister directly. If, as Kevin said, they raised him with love, the couple should be able to tell me what they know. With my heart racing, I made the call, and Helen, my stepsister, answered. Hello, it's about Kevin. On the other end of the line, there was a brief moment of shock, as if time had stopped. Why are you raising the son I gave birth to? Caught off guard by my sudden question, Helen hesitated but eventually revealed everything she knew, and what she told me was far beyond my expectations. Those two. How could they do such a thing? I'll never forgive them. I'll punish them without mercy. Furious like never before, I resolved to get back at my mother-in-law and Ken for taking Kevin away from me. A few days later, on Ken's day off, I invited my mother-in-law to my home. She happily came over. I was more cheerful than usual, serving them tea with a big smile. "Yuki, what's gotten into you? You seem different. What's the matter? Who knows? Maybe it's going to snow?" As always, they made such remarks, belittling me. But I thought their smug attitude wouldn't last for long. "Well, I've invited a guest over today." At that moment, Kevin suddenly appeared in the living room. The moment they saw him, Ken and my mother-in-law's faces contorted with shock. "Ken, mother-in-law, you know who this boy is, right?" "Huh? Who is he? I don't recognize him." "Do you, Ken?" "No, I don't." "What's going on, Yuki?" Just as I expected, they pretended not to know him, but it was clear that they were panicking. "It's me, Kevin. I'm Maya's twin brother. This is the son I gave birth to 10 years ago. The twin boy I was told had passed away." "Why did you guys lie to me about Kevin's death?" I confronted them with strong words, but they kept pretending not to know in this situation. "Well, can you still play dumb in front of this person?" Saying that, I called out to Helen, who was waiting in the next room. Ken and my mother-in-law were surprised to see her and stared in disbelief. "How could you hand over Kevin to Helen and her husband without my consent? No matter how I think about it, this isn't something easily forgivable." According to Helen, she and her husband had wanted a child but were unable to have one. At that time, I had given birth to twins. Ken and my mother-in-law apparently told Helen I was suffering from postpartum depression and asked her to adopt Kevin. Furthermore, they told her that I had agreed to this. Why? How could you do this on your own? How cruel can you be? I tried to stop it, but Mom said it was okay. What, Ken, are you blaming me now? With Kevin and Helen's appearance revealing the truth, the two began to blame each other and make excuses. Helen, seeing the disgraceful behavior of the two, made a frustrated face and said with a big sigh, "Seriously, Ken and Mai rely too much on each other. It's disgusting just watching them." Helen said to lie about your child being dead and steal him from his biological mother? You're both the worst. What? What are you talking about now? Didn't you also rejoice when you heard Kevin would be adopted? That's right. You were also happy, making you complicit, right? What a turn of events. Ken and my mother-in-law shifted the blame unexpectedly to Helen. In this situation, Kevin, who had been silent, seemed to have run out of patience. He clenched his small hand tightly into a fist. "Hey, both of you, stop it. My mom isn't wrong. She took care of me like her real child and loved me so much. Don't be harsh on her." The words from Kevin, voiced so loudly and earnestly, hurt me deeply. And as I watched Kevin trying to hold back tears, I trembled with rage. "Hey, Ken, mother, Kevin is crying. Don't you feel anything seeing him like this? Why did you lie to separate a real mother and child? Tell the truth. It's because I thought you wouldn't be able to handle twins. I acted ahead thinking it was for the best. You should be thanking us." I felt nothing but anger at mother-in-law's selfish and unreasonable words. "Yes, that's right. We were considerate. Even Kevin was raised well by Helen, right? It turned out okay in the end, didn't it?" Ken's arrogant remarks angered Helen, who stared at him intensely. It seemed that Helen had been told by Maya and Ken not to get involved due to my poor interpersonal skills. "Helen said you kept us out of your lives because you were afraid the truth would come out, right? By the way, you demanded $70,000 from Helen and her husband in exchange for adopting Kevin, didn't you? If that's true, it's a criminal act. Humph, where's the evidence for such a claim? If you have it, show it, right, Mom?" "Exactly, where is such evidence, Ken? I've always thought you weren't capable of much as a daughter-in-law. Accusing us without any basis, how typical." Facing the two of them, I presented a decisive piece of paper. What is this? How? This shouldn't exist. Helen's husband is a businessman. As expected of someone running a business, he had them write a receipt. The two seemed to have completely forgotten about it, and they were visibly panicked seeing the evidence. With this solid evidence, I'll be reporting this to the police. Ken and Mother's demeanor changed dramatically. They pleaded with me desperately. Yuki, I'm sorry. Please keep the adoption a secret. Please. Come on, Ken. You too. Apologize to Yuki. Beg her. Yuki, I'm sorry. But don't be too hard on Mom. Don't trouble her too much. Even now, his mother comes first. At that moment, I realized I felt no love for Ken. I forcefully shrugged off the grasping hands of the pleading mother and son. I won't forgive you. I'll reveal the whole truth and ensure you pay for your crimes. Upon hearing my words, the two of them dropped their shoulders and listened, utterly dejected. When I looked at Kevin, he seemed to want to say something to me and Helen. I considered his feelings and spoke to him with a smile. Kevin, you can do what you want. I'm just so grateful and happy that you're alive and came to find me. Thank you so much. I certainly wanted to live with my son, Kevin. However, he had been cherished and raised by the wealthy couple since he was an infant. Maybe staying with them is best for him. With those farts, I couldn't simply say I wanted us to live together. Kevin looked deep in thought as he glanced towards his adoptive mother. Kevin, it's okay to be honest with your feelings. Kevin thought hard for a while, then decisively spoke up. Mom, thank you so much for raising me all these years. I want to live with you from now on. Kevin, really, you want to live with me? It feels like a dream. Hearing Kevin's words, I couldn't help but hug him tightly. In response, Kevin hugged me back just as tightly. Helen, my sister-in-law, watched this moment with a gentle smile on her face. After that, I was able to divorce Ken. With the divorce, I demanded $14,000 in compensation for emotional distress, a monthly child support of $420, and also a claim on the profits from the sale of our house. On the other hand, my mother-in-law and Ken were legally faulted for receiving money when they gave a child up for adoption, leading to their arrest. They are now in jail awaiting their trial. Although my sister-in-law and her husband had paid money to have a child, they were deceived, and thanks to my testimony, they were not charged with serious crimes. Through this event, my sister-in-law and I became close, supporting each other and building a stronger bond. Moreover, I was offered a clerical job at my sister-in-law's husband's company and decided to move to their town. While it's a new life for the three of us, Maya was overjoyed to know about her brother. Kevin enjoyed showing Maya his favorite places and spending time with her. On weekends, they sometimes stay over at my sister-in-law's place. Our new life as a family of three has just begun. However, every day is filled with happiness. I hope to continue building happy memories together, laughing and supporting each other.
Hang in there, Ashley. When I played the DVD that I found behind the storage box in the bedroom, was a video of Ashley, a junior colleague at my company, giving birth. A man was encouraging her as she was pushing. I recognized that voice. What is this? I couldn't understand. I knew Ashley was pregnant, but why was my husband, Jason, by her side at her childbirth? The shock was so overwhelming that I couldn't move from the spot for a while. How long had I been standing there? I'm home. Jason's voice came from the entrance, snapping me back to reality. What's wrong? Why are all the lights off? I got carried away with cleaning. I see. Don't overdo it, especially with our wedding tomorrow. Anger bubbled inside me as Jason smiled kindly. Despite his words, He was having an affair with Ashley. Well, I'm going to take a bath. I watched Jason, unaware of everything, head to the bathroom as usual, clenching my fists tightly. I made up my mind about something and, while Jason was in the bath, I contacted friends who were planning to attend our wedding the next day. Then, I slipped the DVD I had found into my bag. At the wedding tomorrow, I was going to bring Jason down to hell. My name is Vanessa Hansen, 29 years old, a housewife with a wedding planned for next month. Jason, my husband, 3 years older than me, and I got married after an office romance. We originally worked in the same department and hit it off while working on the same project, which led to a relationship and eventually, marriage. We planned to have a wedding ceremony right after getting married, but it was postponed due to an epidemic, so we haven't had it yet. I had always wanted to wear a wedding dress, but it seemed Jason didn't think the ceremony was that important, and progress on the topic was slow. Jason, conventionally handsome and popular at work due to his savvy, was quite lax and disorganized in his private life. Whenever I brought up the wedding topic, he'd respond nonchalantly, "Oh, right. Let's think about it," and the conversation would drift away. Before I knew it, 2 years had passed, and I was soon to turn 30. I wanted to start trying for a baby, and after discussing it with Jason, I quit my job. Weddings and starting a family aren't things I should be doing alone. Even though it felt that way, the difference in our enthusiasm was hard to bridge. But when we heard my in-laws were excited to see me in a wedding dress, Jason finally started to take action. My parents had died in an accident when I was still a student. My in-laws treated me like their own daughter, and I loved them dearly. They were also looking forward to their first grandchild. I thought revealing my pregnancy on the wedding day would make them even happier. Finally, the wedding date was set, and I became busy with preparations. But Jason was as uncooperative as ever. He was working, and I was a housewife. Of course, I understood that I had more time, but I wish he would offer more of his opinions. Jason doesn't seem very enthusiastic about starting a family either. Actually, Jason had been told by the doctor during my bridal checkup that he might have azoospermia. My eggs were numerous and of good quality, but we hadn't conceived despite not using contraception. This led me to suspect that the issue might be with Jason. The doctor had suggested getting a thorough examination at a bigger hospital. But Jason, predictably, mumbled, "Well, maybe sometime," and never followed up on going to the hospital. I wonder if Jason really wants children. I wanted to show my in-laws their grandchild, and I desired to have children. But maybe Jason didn't feel the same. This made it hard to bring up the topic of starting a family, and our time together at night dwindled. In the end, I almost single-handedly finished preparing for the wedding. Even when trying on dresses, he never came to see, and just said, "You're beautiful, so anything will suit you." The wedding planner, trying to be considerate, said, "Maybe he's just shy." Many husbands are like that. But I felt Jason was overdoing his disinterest. As the wedding approached, Jason's business trips and overtime increased in proportion. Despite wanting to discuss more about the ceremony, it was hard to find time with him. Jason said it was a busy period at work, but when I was still employed there, it wasn't particularly busy around this time. Well, internal operations changed day by day, and maybe things changed after I left. I forced myself to accept that reasoning. Time flew by, and tomorrow is finally the wedding day. I had hoped to spend the evening before the wedding talking with Jason, but he had overtime again today. His usual finishing time is 6 p.m., but he said he'd have dinner with colleagues and come home late. Shouldn't colleagues be more considerate the night before a wedding? I felt frustrated but swallowed it and told him, "Be careful coming home." There wasn't much left to do on the eve of the wedding. I decided to clean, thinking I might as well tidy up areas I usually don't. I entered the bedroom. Cleaning the floor and changing the sheets felt refreshing. I thought about decluttering the closet in the bedroom and opened it. The bedroom closet was shared with my husband, but most of it was filled with Jason's things since my items were mostly in the living room storage. My section was mainly for seldom used formal wear and dresses I wore to friends' weddings. The closet, rarely opened, mostly contained Jason's belongings, just as I remembered. I sorted out my things and separated what I didn't need. In doing so, I found something wedged between the storage boxes in the closet. What's this? I picked it up with my fingertips and pulled it out. A CD? No, a DVD? It was an unmarked DVD. The packaging was clear. It looked like something used to record home videos than a commercial product. Jason doesn't really take photos or videos. Wondering what was on the unmarked DVD, I decided to check its contents and went to the living room where the player was. Let's see. I inserted the DVD into the player and pressed the play button. The image that appeared was a familiar woman. We're going to the delivery room now. I'm a bit nervous. Ashley. The woman on the screen was Ashley Connor, a junior colleague from my time at the company. She was 2 years younger than me and had gone on maternity leave shortly before I quit. We had exchanged contacts when I left, agreeing to go for lunch when things settled down. Ashley, with her large pregnant belly, seemed to be about to give birth considering the background. This was a birth video. Ashley already had her baby, and I heard about it from Jason, who got the news at the company. So, this footage must be a few months old, but I wonder why it's in our bedroom closet. Puzzled, I continued watching the video. It seemed quite long, so I fast-forwarded to see what happened next. Eventually, Ashley, on the delivery bed, reached the moment of childbirth. The person holding the camera, perhaps her husband, captured her, reaching her hand out. In response, the person held her hand back. Huh? I suddenly noticed something and paused the video abruptly. The man's hand holding Ashley's. He was holding the camera with his right hand, so the extended hand was his left. There was a wedding ring and a wristwatch that I recognized. It's the same as Jason's. Could this be a coincidence? Suddenly, my heart pounded painfully. A bad feeling washed over me, and I broke out in a cold sweat. Why was Ashley's birth video in our house? Seeking answers, I pressed play again. Hang in there, Ashley. A man's voice encouraged her as she pushed. I knew that voice well. Jason. In the video, Ashley firmly gripped the man's hand. She called him Jason. What is this? I couldn't understand. I knew Ashley was pregnant, but why was my husband, Jason, by her side at her childbirth? Usually, only family members can be that close. Why was Jason attending the delivery of his junior colleague? While I stood there, dumbfounded, Ashley kept pushing, and soon, a baby's cry, wah, was heard. It's a healthy girl. The doctor, lifting the newborn, brought her to the mother, Ashley. Here, Dad, too. Following the doctor's cheerful words, a nurse approached, saying, I'll take over for you. The screen blurred. He probably handed over the camera. After a while, the camera, now steady again, clearly showed Jason beside Ashley, happily looking at the baby. What does this mean? Was Jason having an affair with Ashley? And they had a child together, and he attended the birth? I was too shocked to move for a while. How long had I been like that? I'm home. Jason's voice from the entrance snapped me back to reality. The video had automatically stopped. So I hurriedly took out the DVD from the player and tucked it away in my storage space in the living room. Welcome back. What's wrong? Why are the lights off? I got carried away with cleaning. I see. Don't overdo it, we have our wedding tomorrow. Anger bubbled inside me as Jason smiled kindly. He said that while having an affair with Ashley. Well, I'm going to take a bath. I watched Jason, oblivious to everything, as he headed to the bathroom as usual, clenching her fists tightly. During Jason's bath, I decided to contact my friends who were scheduled to attend our wedding the next day, and slipped the discovered DVD into my bag. Then came the wedding day. Vanessa, you look so beautiful. Mom, you're crying too soon. Seeing me dressed in a wedding gown, tears welled up in my mother-in-law's eyes. She, who cherished me like her own daughter in the absence of my parents. Whenever I faced any trouble, she was always there to offer advice. And my kind father-in-law provided unwavering support. Betraying them felt heartbreaking. But my inability to forgive Jason weighed even heavier on my heart. Thank you, Mother and Father. Tears welled up in my eyes too. Knowing this peaceful and warm time would end soon, I felt incredibly sad and regretful. Many guests attended the wedding, mostly Jason's relatives and friends. I, having lost my parents, had little connection with my relatives and hadn't invited any family members to the wedding, which now seemed fortunate. I had invited a few friends, but they were not in their seats. I had asked them to do something important. Jason was concerned about the empty bride's friends' seats. So I told him I had a surprise, and he naively said, what's that? Sounds intriguing. Unaware of the hell that is awaiting him. At the reception, following the toast, Jason's friends and relatives congratulated them one after another. I responded with a faint smile, and my phone vibrated. My friends were ready. I approached the MC, borrowed the microphone, and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending our wedding reception today. I have invited a special guest." The room buzzed at my words. Actually, my friends have gone to welcome the special guest. Please, look at the entrance. As I pointed to the entrance, all eyes, including Jason's, turned there. Slowly, the door opened. There stood Ashley, brought by my friends. What? Jason stood up abruptly, looking shocked. Ashley was holding her baby, now a bit bigger than in the video. The guests, thinking the surprise guest might be a celebrity, were wrapped in confusion, asking, "Who is that?" Only Jason stared at Ashley in confusion, while Ashley looked uncomfortable. Now that our special guest has arrived, I have something I'd like everyone to see. I took out the DVD from my bag and handed it to the staff, asking them to play it. The staff lowered the projector screen and began projecting the video. We're going to the delivery room. I'm a bit nervous. What the? Jason seemed to realize everything as the video started. However, I held the remote to stop the video. The video continued, showing Ashley in the delivery room. Hang in there, Ashley. Jason. The video showed the successful birth, and the camera being passed to a nurse. Ashley and Jason side by side in the center of the screen caused a stir in the room. What is this? Jason. What is this? My mother-in-law was pale-faced, and father-in-law was furious. Jason, looking ready to be attacked by his father, muttered weakly, "Why? I found it in our bedroom yesterday." Can you understand how I felt, finding this on the eve of our wedding? Even so, you didn't have to show it at a celebration like this. A celebration? How can I celebrate anything after such a terrible betrayal? As I shouted, Jason bit his lip hard. By the way, one of my friends over there is a lawyer. What? What? The friend who brought Ashley was a practicing lawyer. I had contacted this lawyer friend immediately after finding the DVD. I was advised to keep the DVD as it would serve as solid evidence. When I revealed my intention to expose the misconduct of Jason and Ashley at the reception, I was assured of full support and cooperation. This DVD will be kept as important evidence. Ms. Ashley Connor, the child in this video, the baby girl you are holding now, is the same, correct? Upon the lawyer's question, Ashley seemed to search for an excuse but eventually bowed her head and replied in a small voice. Yes. To think you had an affair and even got her pregnant. We never raised you to be such a disgraceful person. My distraught father-in-law and crying mother-in-law were comforted by the relatives rushing to their side. As everyone's attention turned to him, Jason was taken aback. I then delivered the final blow by presenting him with divorce papers. I want a divorce. Wait, let's talk this through. There's nothing left to discuss with you. You and Ashley will pay a significant amount in damages. And you will bear all the expenses of this ruined wedding. How can I? Do you know how much this wedding costs? It's only fair since you ruined it. After shouting this, Jason had nothing more to say. Ashley was hugging her baby and crying. Though the child was innocent, but the affair was unforgivable. We will proceed with the rest through the lawyer. Leaving those words behind, I left the venue with my friends. Later, I received a call from my in-laws. They said I might not want to see them, but I loved them and agreed to meet, provided Jason was not present. Vanessa, I'm so sorry. Upon seeing me, my mother-in-law burst into tears. I shook my head vigorously and embraced her. This is an issue between me and Jason. Neither of you did anything wrong. More importantly, I will never forget how kindly you treated me like your own daughter. I firmly conveyed this while looking into their eyes. I wanted to clear any misunderstanding. This was an undeniable truth. Thank you, Vanessa. We were truly happy to have you as our daughter-in-law. My father-in-law patted my shoulder and then told me what happened after I left the wedding. We've decided to disown Jason, given the shame he brought in front of the relatives. He understands he no longer has a place in our family. I see. I felt no pity. How could he do such a thing, despite being raised by such wonderful parents? There's something we'd like to ask. This is just our wish, so feel free to prioritize your feelings. What is it? Would you consider living with us? Surprised by his words, my eyes widened. Then my mother-in-law added, smiling, only if you want to, Vanessa. We want to leave our inheritance to you, Vanessa. We'd like to become a real family with you, if possible. But I ruined the wedding you were both looking forward to. That's all right. You did what you had to do. My eyes brimmed with tears at their kindness. I promised to contact them as soon as everything was settled and parted that day. For my in-laws' sake, I needed to resolve things with Jason quickly. Once again, I formally asked my lawyer friend to mediate my interactions with Jason. My friend, an excellent lawyer, promptly started the necessary procedures. A few days later, I heard from her that Jason was eager to meet me. I had no intention of meeting him, but he seemed insistent. When I showed reluctance, my lawyer friend commented, "It seems there's some trouble on their end too." Their end referred to Jason and Ashley. I had assumed that Jason, once divorced from me, would remarry Ashley. However, it appeared there were reasons why that couldn't happen. Determined, I decided to meet Jason, with my lawyer present. A few days later, in the reception room of my friend's office, I met Jason for the first time since our wedding. Jason had become noticeably haggard in just a few weeks. Vanessa, it's been a while. What do you want to talk about? I urged Jason to get to the point. Jason hesitated at first, then slowly started to speak. Actually, a shocking truth came to light after that day. A shocking truth? Could there be anything more shocking than what I had experienced? As I frowned at Jason, who seemed to be playing the victim, he showed me a piece of paper. Look at this. What's this? It's the results of a DNA test. What? It was the result of a DNA test for the child of Jason and Ashley. The shocking truth he referred to must be this. The report stated there was a 0% probability of a parent-child relationship. That child isn't mine. I was deceived by her too. Jason slammed his hand on the desk in frustration. Then who is the father of the child? It's just Ashley's husband. Jason's words made me feel dizzy. That's right. I had been so preoccupied with my own situation that I hadn't considered Ashley was married. This meant that both Jason and Ashley had been having an affair. She told me her marriage was already over. So what? That doesn't change the fact that Ashley was married. I was exasperated by Jason, who cheated on me and now blamed Ashley. I had suspected that Ashley's baby might not be Jason's. After all, Jason was suspected of being azoospermic. It was unlikely for his affair partner to conveniently become pregnant. She used me for child support, living luxuriously on that money. Can you believe it? And after I got sued by you. Her husband found out about the affair and divorced her. She tried to use me again, saying I was the only one for her. I get the story. So, we're already divorced, Jason. Your story has nothing to do with me, right? I cut him off sharply, and Jason made a helpless face. Then, he gently grasped my hand. Vanessa, can we start over? You're the only one for me. With tears in his eyes, Jason made his plea. I smiled, and Jason sighed in relief, thinking I agreed. As if I would ever start over with you. Eh? I briskly brushed off Jason's relaxed hand. He looked at me in surprise. Just shut up and listen for once. You only say what's convenient for you. There's no way that would work. You're playing the victim, but to me, you and Ashley are just as bad. I never want to see you again. After my outburst, the meeting ended. I decided to leave everything else to my lawyer friend. My complete rejection left Jason disheartened, and afterwards, he stopped expressing any desire to meet me, and quietly agreed to the compensation I had proposed. Ashley and her husband also divorced, and naturally, her husband sued both Jason and Ashley. Consequently, both Jason and Ashley ended up having to pay damages to both her husband and me. Since Jason and Ashley worked at the same company, and many of Jason's colleagues attended the wedding, the rumor quickly spread within the company, leaving Jason without a place there. However, he couldn't rely on his parents anymore and had to pay compensation. So quitting his job wasn't an option. And he continued to work despite being caught in a difficult situation. As for me, the generous compensation I received allowed me the luxury of taking my time to consider reemployment. Furthermore, my in-laws, who treated me like their own daughter, used nearly all of their assets to buy a luxury apartment for me. They said it was my inheritance, but the large apartment felt lonely to live in alone. So I asked them to live with me, and we became housemates. While I still feel regret and bitterness about being deceived and betrayed by Jason, living peacefully with my kind and loving in-laws, I feel truly happy from the bottom of my heart.